Okay, thank you so much for reconvening. We have one more presenter this evening. So I feel like a really nice sign of a fruitful event series like this is when something emerges out of one of them that feeds directly into the next one. So that's what happened in terms of our next presenter. So I met Azren at the last event, and I'm delighted that he is presenting this event. So I'm going to read a little bio. Azren Raju, aka Azren the Language Nerd, is a language learning enthusiast who shares his passion and knowledge about language learning on most major social networks. Aside from that, he enjoys traveling, interacting with people from different cultures, and watching superhero shows and movies. His podcast is called The Language Learning Show. Let's welcome him.
I'm going to be talking about political correctness, social norms, and social norms both kind of with my work, but also just some general podcasting and things like that. So quick intro on me. My name is Azren. I'm born in Calgary. My family is a bit complicated, actually. Mom's side is born in Uganda. Dad's side is born in Fiji. But Mom's roots come from northern India. Dad's roots come from southern India. And they met in Calgary. So it's a little bit, so technically speaking, I could technically say I'm Ugandan and Fijian, but no, I guess I'm like an Indian Canadian. I guess you could say that. So I speak 5 languages currently. So I speak English because I grew up in Canada. I speak French because I went to French immersion, lived in France for a while, majored in French. Speak Spanish because I started in high school, lived in South America for a while, majored in Spanish, and then I speak Mandarin, which I started out roughly 3.5 years ago, give or take, 3.5. And lived in China for a while, and still learning Mandarin, so still have a lot to go with that. And then with my family, I speak a language called Gujarati, which is a language that comes from a state in India, which is called Gujarat. So I didn't always, like languages per se. Like I used to be pretty neutral about them. French wasn't my favorite subject in school. It was, I don't know if you guys did French in school or not, but it's not always the most fun thing in the world. It can be lukewarm for a lot of people, and I was definitely in that pack. It was okay. And then Mom forced me to go to France on a 3-month exchange trip. Most kids want to run away from home and go travel and be away from home, and I was one who was like, 3 months away from home, are you kidding me? I want to be at home. Like I was a kid who slept in my mom's bed for way too long. Like I was the one forced to get his own bed. Which is so I'm definitely, and actually weirdly I'm realizing it now, I'm not that embarrassed to say it, but I'm like, I guess I'm a mama's boy in a lot of ways. Like I don't know, I guess weirdly I'm not embarrassed to say it. But so yeah, I went to France, came back, and then I realized that, wow, French class is so easy. I don't have to work. It's just really easy. I can just not pay attention and get good marks. Because usually people are still learning and they're making grammar mistakes. And for me, it was just really simple. It wasn't hard. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, in high school, you have to take more options. You have to take option classes. Now, I'm someone who doesn't like most things. I can't swim. I'm not very good at anything with my hands. I'm very inflexible. I can't even touch my toes. So, I'm not going to be building stuff. I'm not doing PE class. I can't swim. You have to go swimming in PE class, so I can't do PE in high school. So I was like, what am I left with? So as my friend Amjad here knows, Spanish. I've known him for 10 or so years. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll do Spanish. And I was like, I like French, Spanish, cool. So I took Spanish and liked it. It was cool. And then I was like looking at university, and again, I don't like most things. I was like, I don't like math, I don't like science, I don't like philosophy, I don't like any of this stuff. I was like, well, I like languages, I guess I'll major in languages. So fell into that, and then I started linguistics, and next thing one thing leads to another, and you're like, wow, I think I really like languages. So from there, I decided to work in a window cleaning position. So for 6 years, I did not work in languages. I ran a window cleaning business. That was like my life. It was like probably more, I actually was doing it while I was in school as well. And unfortunately, if you looked at my attendance records in every year of university, they got consistently worse because, for multiple reasons. But But at any rate, and then recently, probably about a little over a year ago, I started to actually work in languages. So now I teach English and French and Spanish. I will do basic Mandarin as well, but I don't usually talk too much about it because I'm still learning myself. But if someone asks me and they're beginner, I'll do it. And what's interesting, as I've learned, as I learn more about this whole language, apparently there's thousands of people that are interested in learning languages. I had no idea. I thought I was the only one, but there's a lot of people that are like, oh, languages are so cool. And I go, oh, that's kind of weird, but I'm also one of you. It's interesting. And it's interesting to see how there's things that, that I believe that are not politically correct to say. And I think that kind of goes into a lot of categories, podcasting too. There's a lot of things that we kind of just accept, but it's why is it that way? In podcasting, I think a lot of you, for example, on a podcast, often it's 2 people or 3 people, sometimes 1 person. You don't see that many with 4 or 5. Still, not that many, right? At least, unless I'm way off, I don't think you see that many with 4 or 5 people. If I'm seeing head shakes, I'm assuming no. But not that I've seen, but it's well, why? You don't know, right? It's just something that's not socially, and there's obviously a lot of reasons for it. It's weird to get everyone's voice in. I understand there's different dynamics, but language learning, you get the same thing. You get things I believe that not everyone can necessarily become so fluent that they basically pass to the native. People look at me and they go, what? You think that people can't, everyone can do it. Everyone, if they work really hard. And I go, I don't think so. I think there's a talent, there's kind of a talent equation in there, right? There's another one I'm going, this is an interesting one. I'm actually very curious, be brave. Who here, actually I've been talking to someone about this, who's it talking to? Anyway, who thinks that it's possible to be bad at learning a language? I'm curious. So interesting. So this is fascinating. This is literally, what I've done is 90% of the room. That's fascinating to me. Because what's interesting, if you ever talk to someone who's really into language learning, they'll be like, oh no, it's crazy. It's like you insulted their mother, how angry they get. It's it's ridiculous. It's crazy. The amount of emotion that you'll bring out of someone is crazy. And when I hear it, I go, well, I can see how someone could be not great at learning languages. I think everyone can learn language. The same way anyone can learn math. The same way anyone can learn history. Basically everyone, right? You can learn different skills, but I'm not naturally good at math, for example. I've learned math. I'm not bad at math. I'm pretty good at math now, but it doesn't come naturally to me. And so it's interesting, it's very politically incorrect in a language learning circle to say, oh no, I'm not good at learning languages. And to me that's it's crazy. It's a fallacy. It's completely bonkers. Bonkers, crazy nonsense stuff because of course someone could be not great at learning a language. You know what I mean? I think it's weird that we accept someone who's bad at math, and we accept it. We go, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? And then when you go look at languages, in this room, obviously people would be like, oh yeah, you could be bad at languages. But you go to, I was at a language learning conference, which is a thing, and it's, there's 300-400 people there, and if you said that kind of statement, they'd be like, what? And so it's just really interesting, right? And especially when, for me anyway, when it comes to, my big thing is I feel whenever I'm learning language, my goal is always I want to be able to be so good that someone goes, wow, I almost forget that he's not Chinese. That's a bad example because I don't look Chinese, but I almost forget that he's not, whatever. I lived in Peru for a while, I was in Peru, right? They'll almost forget. They always are not going to forget, right? But they'll almost forget. And I think that it's something that it's hard for people to, I think a lot of people think, in language learning circles anyway, they'll think that, oh yeah, anyone can get there. But it's no, because there's a lot of elements to learning language that are not just, I know lots of words, I know grammar, I can pronounce funny sounds, I can make my mouth do things that my friends can't do. It's not just that. There's things like behavior. In France, for example, I lived in France for a while, it's the hello and goodbye policy is very different than here. So let's do a demo. I know 3 people here. Let's get 3 people. Let's have some fun. So join me. So I walked in, right? I walked in the door. God, Sam. So for example, I walked in, and I saw 3 people I know. I would have to say, hey Kyle, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, yeah, how's it going? How are you doing? Hey, how are you? That would, thank you, that's right. That would have to be it. I'd have to Round of applause, I think. Right? I have to do it. I have to. That's like the social norm. There's a news story about a French lady who works in a company and she wasn't greeting. She's like, I don't want to greet every single person as I walk in. There's like 50 people in the office. It takes like an hour to greet everybody. And it's a big news story. And they're like, well, no, she has to. Here, if I saw them, like my friend came in a little late, and I was like, that's what he got from me. I've known the guy for 10 years, and he got, that's what, but it's okay here. That's not a language thing, that's a behavioral thing, right? And there's so many things, like there's lots of little, there's lots of things like that allow you to fit into another culture per se. And again, there's social norms, or things that, it's politically incorrect for me not to greet every single person I know individually. And same thing with goodbye, same kind of thing. So, anyway, that's kind of my piece for the most part. Yeah, I guess we could open it up. I mean, you can take questions in a language learning direction, podcasting direction, whatever you want.
Yeah, I have a question that's kind of more in a language learning direction. I was wondering if you have any kind of experience with maybe the politics of languages where there's not a culture for it anymore. So by what I mean for that is like my grandparents, for example, they speak Yiddish, and like I speak a little bit of Yiddish, but it's not like I can go anywhere and like to a country where people speak Yiddish. I mean, my grandparents could, but like that doesn't really exist anymore outside of like very small, isolated religious communities. So like what are kind of the politics of language learning when like the cultural piece is almost missing?
Well, and actually what's interesting about that is there's that, and there's another piece. A lot of, I think often we assume that, a cultural group wants us to learn their language, right? So I'll give you an example. I was listening to someone speak, and it would have been August, where they're talking about, I wish I remember what language it was. I think it was an Aboriginal language, but don't quote me on that. I think it was. And the person who's speaking had studied it, but it'd be weird when they spoke to people, because the Aboriginal's like, whoa, why are you learning your language? Like, that's not, like, you're not, are you Aboriginal? You're not? Why? Like, it was very different, right? And so, yeah, it's definitely harder, right? It's definitely, especially if there isn't a culture on it, it's much harder. The cool thing now that was internet is there are like pockets of communities in different places, right? Where you could find, like if I were to Google, the Yiddish Speakers Society, I don't even know what it would be, right?
Yeah, it's well, I guess to me it's interesting because like, of course there's like Yiddish language enthusiasts like online that I can talk to or something, but like you go and you read like, it's like Yiddish for beginners, and it's all like, I would like to find a restaurant, or like how to order a taxi. It's like, I'm never gonna like get a taxi in Yiddish. It's just like, it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like language learning is like designed to kind of give you the ability, in my opinion, to like move around a space. So like you do like French for beginners, it's like usually with the intent of like going to France and like being able to order at a restaurant or something. But when that like cultural space doesn't exist, like how do you learn language and like what is it for?
Fantastic question. Yeah, I mean, I think it is very personal too. Like I think it's personal why some people learn different languages. Like I'm learning. I leave for India in about 2.5 weeks. I'll be there for 2 months, and I'll be basically, for the most part, most of my days will be studying my own language, which is Gujarati. I can speak. I can read and write extremely poorly and very slowly. And the main reason I want to learn is because I feel weird saying that my Mandarin is better than my Gujarati. Like it just feels weird. It's like, oh, you speak Mandarin? Yeah. You speak Gujarati? Yeah. Or like when I'm an Indian person, it's just, there's no other word for it. It's just weird. Like, oh, you speak Gujarati? Yeah. Oh, cool. And they speak, and I'm speaking, and they're like, they can hear my accent, they can hear the mistakes. Like I've said weird things. Like I wanted to say my feet are cold. And I said like, oh, there's cold on my feet. I said things like, I told my grandma the vacuum's like spitting out loogies. And I meant to say it's spitting, like, because in our language we can't say it's spitting out. And she's like, oh, yeah. She had no idea what I was saying. And she asked my mom, like, Azren said the vacuum's spitting. And Mom's like, well, I think he meant it's spitting dirt out. She's like, you can't say that. And then the whole family did be funny me for a few weeks. But like, it's things like that. Like I go, like, for me, it's personal going like, I speak probably a little better Mandarin than I do Gujarati, which is just odd.
Did you talk about like historical things? Like, for example, my wife's Romanian, and she can speak like.
Yeah, Romanian. You're Romanian.
And it's just funny for me because she only feels like she can speak Romanian and English, but like she'll watch a show in Russian or like, I don't know, like she knows like 6 languages, right? I know only one. So, but for example, it was surprising for me as I tried to learn some Romanian words that like different objects are like feminine or masculine, and you have to remember this, but I don't really understand the history of that kind of thing. I'd love to know more about it. Like, do you discuss historical things?
If I know it, then I will.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think if I have in recent history. I don't think I have.
Because like half the battle for me is trying to remember if coffee is a male or female like ending to the
Yeah,
word or whatever.
what's interesting about that, and you know, it's funny you bring that. It's really funny you bring that up because that tends to be like the most stereotypical example of what is brought up. Usually people go, oh, I hate that masculine, feminine. But the weird thing is, if I say the spider feminine or the spider masculine, you still understand we're talking about a spider. It doesn't ever affect someone understanding you. Which is why I'm always surprised, like, why does everyone focus on that when if you mess it up 100% of the time, everyone's still gonna understand you. Like I know someone who, in English is second or third language, they consistently refer to everyone as he. She forgets to say she, just messes it up. But when she says, oh yeah, I talked to Sally, he said that, I go, oh yeah, she meant, like I don't even like, it doesn't even register, right? So it's always interesting, I find that interesting. But
I think we're gonna wind up. Does anybody have any final question or comment?
Can I?
Oh, of course.
Oh, sorry. Did you, because you said you don't speak Gujarati all that well, but were you learning it as a small child?
I'm not bad. Like I'm not fluent. I'm trying to say like, you know, I mean I can, you know, carry a conversation. I can talk to. I can understand a lot. Like.
But when did you start?
I started as a child. I was technically speaking I could say that Gujarati was before English. Technically, I could say that. My mom was very good about it. When I was a kid, no English in the house. Nobody was very, very good about it. So.
Awesome. Well, that was the evening. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.